It's really important to know what's taking place in your state at a Supreme Court level, and there's a really amazing initiative taking place, and I've got someone joining me to give us some more information. Amy Goscha, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us about this today.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. So I'm Amy Goscha. I'm a founding partner of Kalamaya Goscha. We're a law firm in the Vail Valley. We have offices in Aspen, Vail, and Denver. And I co-chair the Outreach and Education Committee for the Licensed Legal Paraprofessional Program. And what a licensed legal paraprofessional is in Colorado, we might see this new limited license soon. And the main driver is that in Colorado right now, we have 73% of litigants in domestic relations or family law cases are coming to court without representation. So there's this huge gap in an access to justice to, getting help to navigate, through the family law system. So this new licensed legal paraprofessional program would allow someone to represent clients in some divorce cases in a limited capacity, as well as in child custody cases, which are APR cases. So it's really exciting. The way that I kind of analogize it to is in the medical profession, we have physician assistants. So it would be kind of similar in the legal field where it'd be someone between a paralegal and a lawyer. And so to kind of to parse out what these individuals can and cannot do. And specifically right now in Colorado, this program will be specifically in the domestic relations and family law area to help litigants dealing with those types of disputes and matters. And so specifically, we get a lot of questions about, what can an LLP do and what can they not do? So specifically, the difference between an LLP and a lawyer is that they would not be able to orally advocate in court for a client. But LLPs would be able to help litigants prepare filings, supporting documentation. They'd be able to actually accompany a client to court to sit at counsel table and answer factual questions from the judge. And they would also be able to represent a client in a mediated type proceeding. So it really would give, people help that they really need. And also the thought behind this is that LLPs could really help people in less complex family law matters. For instance, when you have complex matters that lawyers would need to deal with, such as trust, common law marriage, contempt, or premarital agreements, those types of cases would need to be referred to a lawyer to deal with those cases. But it's pretty exciting because LLPs, the way that the implementation plan is structured right now is that they could practice independently or they could practice within a family law firm. So LLPs could practice with attorneys, but they would not be allowed to supervise attorneys. So they also would not have a majority interest in a law firm. So one thing that the implementation plan really looked at was to make sure that LLPs were equipped to handle cases, that were less complex. And so what we proposed was a net marital asset cap in divorce cases. So that would mean that an LLP could handle matters where there's a net marital asset estate of $200,000 or less. And what a net marital asset estate means is you take the total marital assets, the value of those minus the total marital debt to figure out what the net, marital assets would be. So anything above 200,000, either the LLP would have to ask the court for, to be able to stay on that matter. The court would have to find good cause shown for the LLP to remain on the matter, or it would need to be referred, to an attorney. And again, this program is really there to help, these 73% of, litigants in these types of matters that really can't, frankly, afford an attorney, such as myself at my hourly rate, even on a limited scope basis. And so we also looked at, so there's the kind of the income threshold or the asset threshold amount for, dissolutions of marriage. But then we also have cases where people are not married and they have children together, and they're trying to figure out parenting time, decision-making, and child support. So in those types of cases, which are called allocation and parental responsibility cases, we really looked at, we need to put an income threshold. We didn't really do a recommendation to the Supreme Court as to what that income threshold should be. We wanted the Supreme Court to essentially determine that and to get public comment on, what makes sense. Some of the ideas that we considered were to look at an income threshold at 100,000. That would be about half of the net marital asset cap, as well as it would be about 400% of the current federal poverty guideline levels for a family of 3. But again, this is something that, an LLP, when they meet with a potential client, would need to determine, on the onset, does this person qualify for LLP services, or is it beyond the scope of LLP services? So
there's a lot of really great information. I just have a couple questions as you're rattling through things, because there are some things that maybe the general public would like to know. So if people would like to make a comment, they can do so online right now. That way their comment can be heard, revised, and taken in. And do you recommend that people do this to help get this passed through?
Yes, I do, because the Supreme Court is really looking for not just attorneys to comment on, are these services that would be helpful to people going through these types of disputes? Are there people out there who, don't want to go to law school for 3 years, but would like, would like to do something in the legal field, where they're not having to spend $100,000 in student loan debt? So we do have right now, the Supreme Court has opened it up for public comment through September 14th at 4 p.m. And that's on the court state website. And we would love for you to, provide comments on the plan, and if you think that it would be, useful. And there's also, it's almost a 400-page document. So that's the Colorado Judicial website. So if you scroll down on that website, under proposed rule changes, you'll see the call for requests for comments. And there's a website address where you would be able to submit your comments. So specifically, it would be great to get some comments on what people think about the income thresholds, in non-married family law cases dealing with, APR matters, as well as the $200,000 threshold. For instance, when this implementation plan was getting, I guess, the history of it, when they were gathering research, as a family law attorney in the Vail Valley, they reached out to me to answer questionnaires as to, would the net marital asset cap at 200,000, would that reach, enough people? Should it be higher or lower? So it'd be really great to get comments, not just from, the public in the metro area, because this is a statewide initiative, that is coming.
And with the recent kind of COVID thing taking place, there's been a lot more domestic violence cases than normal, which we've kind of seen that progressively change throughout the years as COVID has kind of died down. And so this is going to help those people that have found themselves in these sticky situations with maybe their partner or the person that they thought they loved, just kind of getting through and working through the process of the legal system.
Right. And you and I had talked about, the Bright Future Foundation, which is a local organization. I'm on the board. You're, volunteering as a mentor mentee. And I know that there is one, staff attorney for the organization. But this type of LLP person could come in and help, those people, since there's so many people that are dealing with those types of issues.
Amy, we are all out of time. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and give us all this great information on something that people can really make a difference here in our community just by doing that public comment forum and getting their voices heard through the Supreme Court as well, just on kind of that income cap and exactly how this might change someone they know or change their own lives. And so if you have any other piece of information to give people right now, what would it be?
I would say that right now it's very, important to look at the equities in the court and access to court, and to make sure that in family law, types of situations, they're not easy to navigate. So this is a way to, help people in those situations navigate, the family law challenges. So I would encourage people to comment on what they think. There's also I know it's it's a long document, 400 pages, but there is the first, I think it's, 19 to 20 some pages of an executive summary that you can read through, and it'll give you a lot of good information.
Amy, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We really appreciate all this information, and thank you so much for being involved in such a wonderful initiative.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time.
Make sure that you go on the website, you get your public comment out there, that way the Supreme Court can hear it, and that way we can make a difference in not only our community here in Vail, but in the entire state of Colorado. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we've got more of the show.